This is If My People Bible Reading, Part 83. Welcome, Shepherd. That's who you are from now on, as I mentioned in Part 82. If you went through Part 81 and 82, the document resources I pulled that from are from theological institutes and have the credible part of what all the ministers who go through those doctoral teachings and instructions to get their PhDs in that. But what is totally stunning is of the hundreds of people I know and the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pastors who have gone through these theological institutes, and I'll just leave it at that. Dwight L. Moody, I've already mentioned that one. Dallas Seminary, uh, Swindoll, Smith, all those. Have you ever heard them mention what I said in part 81 and 82? No. Yet they know this. And Ministry Alliance talking to them, they just basically say, and they're so honest about it, and I appreciate that. They even cry about it. They said, I cannot make a living like you do, Bruce, if I tell the truth. If I tell my people and my church the truth, I won't have a church. Wow. And they're right. And so for the people that I know that are in the business of selling books and publications and DVDs and living off of the YouTube and so forth, I'm telling you, I live off nothing. I get nothing. And quite frankly, in financial time and expenses in the last 20 years, putting this all together, a total of 14 just in the research alone and the time and the effort, hundreds of thousands. So what? I haven't missed any of it. If I asked myself 20 years ago, should I do this and this is what's going to cost me in time and effort, would I do it? No, not if money had to do with it. But because I thought I couldn't have possibly afforded any of this. And if people want a book or Bible, they get it. And will it cost me $100 or $50 a piece at least in printing just to get it out and to them? Yeah. Did I come up with it? Yeah. Yeah, and then the books I've collected. There's the companion Bible. That was hundred some odd dollars. And then, oh, some of these Bibles you get to research them. It's incalculable. It's so what I said in 81 and 82. I'm sticking to it. I'm sorry, but and you're sorry because you have to put up with people like that. Because when you question them, they attack you just like the pagans in the street. There's not much difference now that you understand the institutionalized churches. I'm not talking about your mom and pop church on the corner where a man who just loves Yeshua and his wife who loves Yeshua, and they are struggling pastors. I'm not talking about them. The Father knows who they are. But these ones who make a business out of everything, a tax write-off and everything, they don't deserve any of it. And quite frankly, when the government comes after them, you would have to think, is the Father allowing this, the government, to go after the taxing the churches because they're nothing but a business? What do you think? And all of a sudden, these things are going to fade away when the money starts disappearing from their pulpits. All of a sudden, this love and zeal that they have in the Father just kind of goes away. Just, woo, they go out there and sell insurance or something. All right, the book of Yeshua. Or this is another type, just as Moses was, just as Abraham was. This is a type of the Son, Yeshua, meaning salvation. And yes, Joshua. There is no such thing as Joshua in Hebrew. It's Yahshua, Yahshua. The J is not there. It's more like a Y instead. Just like you go to Jerusalem and Jewish people know who you are. You're just a tourist. You're one of them Christian people because their city is not Jerusalem. It's Yahurusalem. Okay, you're giving things away when you go into town with wearing zitziots. I wear my zitziots because the Lord commands it. Adonai wants it. Mm. So when you do that and they look down, they see that blue thread, they know that you're not one of them. I love the Jews, you say to them, and they're looking at your zitziots going, no, he doesn't. because he wouldn't dare wear that blue. They don't wear the blue because the blue represents the Father, and they say the Father has left them. So see how this kind of works as a positive and a negative. If you wear ziziotes with blue in them, you're insulting them. And as far as I'm concerned, you got to remember this. It's very important to remember this. The tribe of Judah is jealous of the other tribes in the last days. And they repent and they return to the ways that they're supposed to be, so that all 12 tribes become from 2 tribes now into 1 tribe. And it's not the other way around like the Christian pastors are teaching all over the world that, well, we need to love the Jews and then we need to do Jewish stuff. And so they'll understand that. First of all, you don't even know how to wear things. And if you wear a kippah, I know a lot of Hebrew roots, other people, Messianics, they wear kippahs. Where does it say in the word that you wear a kippah? By the way, kippah wasn't invented till the 15th, 16th century. Hello? Well, what did they wear in those days, even though they weren't supposed to wear head covering, but they did for hundreds and hundreds of years? What did the people of Judah wear? They wore a cone hat. And you can go to the library, don't go to YouTube, go to the library and look up real stuff. And they wore cone heads. And so is that why the Pope wears a Dagon cone head hat? Kinda. He wears it to pull in his congregation to get his business going. And he has a Dagon shape. So if you ever look at the Dagon shape that the Pope wears and the pious leadership in the Catholic Church, they wear a Dagon hat. What is that? It's a fish god hat. It's the shape of a fish mouth. The things that they do to pull in a business is astounding. And yet the sheep, and there are wonderful people out there that are sheep, they don't have a clue what's going on. They don't. It is so easy and obvious to find out what is the truth and what is not. Rightfully divide the word. That's a commandment. That's an Old Testament commandment and a New Testament commandment from the Son who wrote both. And find out, because if you test it, Yahweh will let you know. He will have a way of letting you know the truth. So now we're in the book of Joshua. Let me tell you this. In the book of Genesis, Israel was born. In the book of Exodus, Israel was chosen from all of the other nations. In the book of Numbers, the nation was proven. In the book of Leviticus, it was brought in by the blood, the importance of the blood, the sacrifice, which ended that way. By the way, it ended, all that Levitical stuff ended with the blood sacrifice and the slaughter of animals just for the sake of the savory of the smell of the smoke going up into heaven. Yeshua comes down in the millennium, and he is dwelling with us. He is Emmanuel. He dwells with us. And so we don't do sacrifices because Yeshua was the sacrifice. So this Leviticus stuff, very, very important to know, because when we get the new covenant, we find out what we don't do anymore of the 613 laws. Hundreds and hundreds of those laws no longer in effect. So that's the confusion. We're not under the law. Well, that's a half-truth. Yes, you are. The law, well, I'm not under gravity anymore either. I'll just fly away because gravity doesn't exist. I don't believe in it, and Yahweh took it away. So I don't have to do gravity anymore. That's a law, folks. Okay. In Deuteronomy, it was instructed to them. In the book of Joshua, it faces conflict and conquest. And the book of Joshua completes the redemption of Israel that was begun in Exodus. Exodus is the book of redemption out of Egypt. Joshua is the book of redemption into the promised land. The key word in the book of Joshua is possession. Yahweh had given the children of Israel their land in an unconditional covenant. And to Abraham he had said, "And I will give unto thee and the seed after you the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their Yahweh." However, Israel's possession of the land was conditional. There was conflict and there was conquest. They had to fight battles and lay hold of their possessions, and as Joshua reminded them in his final message before his death, the obedience of the word of Yahweh would determine their continued possession of the land. So there's the 5 books of Torah there. Hear and obey. Now, apply that to today. Well, it's very easy to do when we get the Old Covenant and we'll lay out the 1,050 Torah commands that are in effect now and were in effect when Yeshua showed up and walked up to John and was baptized. Then it all changed. We became a nation of priests under order of the Melchizedek priesthood. Okay. Joshua was, where are we at, 11 minutes? Joshua was a successor to Moses. He was a general. He was born a slave in Egypt. He was 40 years old at the time of the exodus out of Egypt. He was 80 years old when he received his commission as Moses' successor, and 110 years at the age of his death. Joshua had already gained prominence during the wilderness wanderings. When they were attacked by an army of Amalekites, it was Joshua who organized the men into an army and fought off Amalek. Joshua served as the minister or servant to Moses. References to him in that connection reveal his loyalty to Moses and his devotion to Yahweh. At Kadesh Barnea, he was one of the 12 men who went out to spy out the land of Canaan. He was one of the 2 spies that returned with a favorable report in full confidence that Yahweh would give them the land. And all this that happened is very practical to the believer today. The promised land cannot be a type of heaven, since heaven is not a place of conflict or conquest. So he's not bringing heaven down on earth in the millennium. Don't get confused with what the pastors out there at institutionalized churches are telling you. Because there will be people starving to death. There were people with pestilence and famine. There were terrible things going to be happening during the millennium while Yeshua is having his iron scepter control, and his Melchizedek priesthood, 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe, are going to be in charge of the land surrounding the oblation area. Keyword oblation area. Keyword sanctuary area, not downtown Jerusalem where the Temple Mount supposedly is, which it's not. But that's where the people will go. They will go to Jerusalem, and the healing waters will come down from the north to that area. And then the rest of the world, in the millions and millions, will have to hear and obey. They have to hear and obey. Can they once again have free choice to not hear and obey? Absolutely. So there's your conflict and wars, especially at the very end, when Yahweh allows Hasatan for the first and final time to really tear into the entire world, in which, of course, he fails. But so there will be a horrible situation. And who takes care of it? We all line up and get swords and machine guns and laser beams? No. Just as what says here in Joshua, what you're about to learn, hear and obey me, and I will be your warrior. Yeshua is a warrior. He's not a little lammy person anymore, okay? Let's see. Anyway, I mentioned about the promised land cannot be a type of heaven. Since heaven is a place of conflict and conquest, heaven is received as a gift from the grace of Yahweh. Rather, the promised land represents a place to which believers are brought right here in this world today. The book of Yeshua corresponds to the epistle of the Ephesians in the New Covenant, where we see that the believer is blessed with spiritual blessings. The practical possession and experience of them depends on conflict and conquest. These are never attained through energy of the flesh, but through the power of the Ruach HaKodesh in the yielded life of the believer. The book of Joshua is the pattern, and it illustrates the method by which the believer can possess what Yahweh has given to him, her. Okay? There's your equal rights as far as that goes. So the next reading, we'll get into it all the way through Joshua. Probably take two more times after that. We got some important things to bring up. So blessings.